Well, this is going to be an interesting episode of The Pit. No LCS action, but yes, we do have an international tournament to talk about. So let's do this. First and foremost, we should discuss week 3 of the LCS, which was just an utter blowout, honestly. And I think it was actually like the perfect week for it to happen, given that now we can kind of just forget about it and move on to the next thing, as every single match was a 2-0. None of them were really all that close, so there's really not much to say. And given that we have a 3-week break until we return, I'm really not going to have much. But I did get the chance to talk with Spawn, the head coach of our first place team, Team Liquid, to discuss how the week was going, how the prep was, and also their upcoming match. So you enjoy beating our ass, don't you, at this point?
Honestly, today's games were not enjoyable at all, but that's all right.
I mean, you guys have looked hella consistent. Like, the last 2 series now, granted, obviously, it's Shopify and 100 Thieves who appear to be weaker than the rest. But game 1 gets a little sloppy, and then game 2, you just come in and stomp. Like, it's not even close, these last 2 series. Like, what makes you guys get that much better and, like, clean up the mistakes so quick between games?
I mean, honestly, I think we're getting annoyed at our own gameplay to a certain extent. So I think that when we have a look at today's series, we're up like 3,000 gold on Corki, 3,000 gold. I can't even remember the 80 carry we played game 1.
Lucian, I think.
Lucian. We played Lucian Nami, yeah. So we're up like 3,000 gold on Lucian. The game should be completely over. Like, we should just be able to hit Baron at like 22, 23 minutes when Lucian's flash is back up, and we just didn't do it. And then we like fumble the game. The game goes on for another 20 minutes. Everyone comes out of the game. They're all pissed off, and they're just like, that's it. Like, next game we got to show up. We got to play better.
I mean, honestly, though, it's great to see. Like, you could see immediately after game 1, APA stands up immediately, shakes his head, is clearly pissed off at himself, and then comes in game 2, and it's like, okay. Then he's just chucking bombs on people's heads. It was fun to, like, not fun as a 100 Thieves fan to watch, but fun, like, to see good gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, when we play clean, we're obviously like much happier with ourselves. But that consistency is what's missing at the moment. And the issue is when you're inconsistent, then you drop games, and like people think they can beat you, and then it becomes a little bit easier to play against you. So we need to make sure that we're way more consistent.
Do you take any stock into some of the arguments that are being thrown out there of like you guys need to start playing more AP junglers and start increasing your champion pool diversity, or is it just like, nah, screw it, we got a style, like we're gonna perfect it?
I mean, I don't even think it's that we've got a style. It's just like, all right, if we can only play 2 junglers, ban them, see what happens. Like, there's a reason that teams aren't banning them. There's a whole bunch of games that people don't see. They're called scrims. Trust me, teams try different things against us in scrims. It's just not as successful as people would think. So, I'm not worried about it. I know we don't play one style. I don't think we've ever played one style. So it's just something that is a narrative. And, if this was our best style, like, there's 7 other teams in the league, guys. We've played 3 of them. They would ban the style if this was literally the only way we could win the game.
Fair enough. The next opponent you guys have is actually Fanatic. I'm not sure when you guys, like, what day do you guys fly out to?
I think we fly on the 1st, and I think we play them on the 4th. So I think we arrive like night of the 2nd or morning of the 3rd, do media, and then play.
How you feeling going into that series?
Yeah, obviously pretty good. We feel like we match up well against Fnatic. They're a team that we had really interesting gameplay against at MSI because we came out and played very aggressive and they slowed down a little bit. In saying that, we're not taking them lightly. We know from scrims that they're really good players. We know, especially when Humanoid is informed, that they're an explosive team. So, we're looking forward to the challenge. And anytime we can get to international events, scrim, play good teams, we're just going to look to keep getting better. So, it's not like we're going in there expecting to stomp them. We think it's going to be a really competitive series, as the first one was, and we're just going to enjoy it.
So you get 3 days before. Are you guys going to stay around after, like, regardless of how? Because it's a very short tournament. It's only like, what, 3 days in total?
Yeah, it's a really short tournament. I think it's like 4 days in total or something like that. I think that we're there the whole time. So we'll try and scrim as many teams over there as possible.
Any chance we get those scrim records public, like G2 posts, or?
I don't know whether we'll ever do the G2 post thing. I think that, I'm a fan of copying when it's a really good idea. I think that the rationale behind G2's reasoning for doing that was, a lot of cancels, a lot of bad quality scrim days, and they apparently cleaned up Europe with it. I don't think that we actually have that issue. I think it was actually said by a couple of DIG players, a couple of NRG players, that our scrim quality right now is relatively high. So we don't feel the need to do any of that.
That's really good to hear. Is there one champion that you haven't, that you think is kind of overrated in the meta right now that we're seeing a lot?
Um, Overrated champion that we're seeing a lot. I don't think there's any overrated champions. I think there are champions that are actually harder to play than people give credit to. Like, I think it is actually harder to play some of these AP junglers than teams realize, just because they're not as good as giving help to lanes. I think that, you know, not every draft can an AP jungler play. I think that there are also some champions that are probably being slept on a little bit in the region. Like, I think that mages made their way back into the LCK last night. I think that, you know, a couple of those are definitely playable. So I wouldn't say anything that's mad overrated, but I would say there are some champions that could be utilized more. I'm also a huge Gnar fan at the moment, so if we can play some Gnar, I'll be happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody got tired of Gnar for a year back, whenever it was Armut and everybody just spamming it constantly top lane. But we're distanced enough away from that where it'd be entertaining again.
Yeah, I mean, I think the meta has just become like heavy team fighting, right? So any split pushing we can get in, I'm a fan of.
Okay, fair enough. FlyQuest is also going to be going out with you guys. I know their roster is a little bit different than the last time you guys went international. How do you like their chances against G2?
I think G2 is definitely a better team. Like, no doubt about that. I think that they should be considered heavy favorites. But I think FlyQuest are probably going to be similar to us. You know, when they brought Quad into the roster, they knew there was going to be teething issues. I think that we've seen a little bit of that. And then we've also seen some of the highs that this guy can have. We think Quad's a pretty good player. So I think that they're going to go there. They're going to look to work on the things they need to work on. And then I think it's just a bonus for them if they're able to make that a competitive series or pick up a win. So I don't think they'll be too concerned.
We see a lot of conversation like about whenever we go international, more for Worlds than anything else, where you have 3 teams from a region. It's like, are you sharing results between each other? What from scrims, small advantages to try and like help out the region? Do you think there's any validity to doing that, or is that just like a community narrative that's kind of being overhyped?
I think that's really community narrative being overhyped. I think that it's very hard when you're in competition with these guys for 9 months of the year to then all of a sudden be like, yo, we're teammates. You know, I don't think it really works that way. I don't think Gen G particularly likes T1, like, just for example. So I don't think they're sharing anything either. You know, when you're BLG and you've played the exact same finals, like, what, 3 years in a row or something, I'm not sure they're sharing anything. So, you know, maybe once upon a time the coaches potentially got down and had dinner. It definitely wasn't happening when I was in esports, but I can tell you right now that we're pretty competitive with the guys from NA, so I don't know whether much of that is happening.
I mean, fair enough. It's just you always see that point of contention. There's like this push for when we go international.
Also, I'm Australian, so it could just be the North American coaches hate me and don't give me any of the information, but yeah, definitely not coming my way.
I mean, they got to respect it. I mean, they can hate you all you want, but they're trying to shit on their way up, so good luck to them on that one. Anything?
I mean,
oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, you go.
No, I had a completely separate question. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to say, like, I don't think that, like, we're untouchable at the moment. I actually just tweeted that I was pretty disappointed with our gameplay. So, you know, we're at least me, hopefully my players as well, pretty humble at the moment because, yeah, as I said, I don't think we're playing perfectly.
You realize, though, that is going to fuel the arguments that you are better than everybody else because you do have that mentality of, like, you know, this
yes and no, because I just don't think that Cloud9 were looking at us today and like, wow, we really don't want to play Team Liquid on like this day. Like, you know, I don't think FlyQuest would have looked at today and been like, wow, we really don't want to play Team Liquid. I think they actually would have been like, wow, these guys are, you know, fucking clowns. Like, what are they doing? Like, we'll be if like that Team Liquid shows up against Cloud9, that Team Liquid shows up against FlyQuest, so we'd probably lose. So, yeah, I mean, maybe yes and no. Maybe the hunger makes us a better team. I hope it does, but also we need to be realistic with where we're at.
Gotcha. I just got the 2-minute warning. So final question is anything you want to say to the TL fans out there regarding your performance today, but also just like the split in general and the Esports World Cup coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just support the players. It's the exact same thing I've always said. Like when we were playing badly, I was like, be critical of us. We welcome that feedback. But now that we're playing, you know, undefeated in the league, we're going into another international event. You know, I think we should just put everything aside and just support the Team Liquid players and make sure that we're giving them as much love as possible because very rare that you get to ride this high. And then, you know, as always, thank you so much to my loving partner, Jenna, and my kids, Jasper and Henry, for being the best family I can have supporting me while I'm away. And yeah, shout out to the fans.
Well, we're glad to have you back in the States, even if it is short-lived for only a few days until you head out. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
No worries.
And
thank you.
Good luck this upcoming weekend.
Cheers.
See ya. Now, the focus of this episode is going to be previewing the Esports World Cup, which if you do not know, what it is by now. This is the event being held in Saudi Arabia. Yes, it is a blood money event, and if you have an issue with that, by all means, do not watch the tournament. That's perfectly fine. I've said this multiple places, but I'll repeat it here. I've watched Live Golf. I've been a part of this, unfortunately, for a bit now, and I see where this is going as Live potentially merges with the PGA Tour. So Saudi money is permanently in the things that I love. So my moral compass is out the goddamn window. But the truth is, even if you're not going to watch the Esports World Cup, it is actually pretty important to still pay attention to some of the things happening here, because this is the first sign of competition that we've had in LoL esports, not from a gameplay point of view, but somebody actually putting on a serious competitive event besides Riot Games that the ecosystem is eventually going to embrace. Monte Cristo even noted that, yeah, there's a chance that MSI next year could just be entirely held at the Esports World Cup and become a much bigger thing as it validifies the Esports World Cup like permanently. We'll deal with that bridge when we get to it, but at least for now, this is the first time that somebody's actually going to be competing against Riot to, try and innovate and provide a better product than what Riot already puts out, so that people do have a reason to watch. Because let's be honest, the format really ain't great. It's 2 rounds of best of 3s into a best of 5 final, all single elimination. It ain't great. But what they smartly did was they put a Western matchup in the first quarterfinals. Is that the most competitive thing? No, absolutely not. But is it going to be the best thing for entertainment? 100%. So we do have Team Liquid up against Fnatic. Team Liquid hopefully will be able to win the rematch, especially with Fnatic. Honestly, not looking all that good as of late. This past week, I don't know what they've been doing, but it hasn't looked good over in the LEC. G2 started off slow, as they did in spring, but I think they'll be fine come playoffs. That's going to be a much harder test for FlyQuest, and we'll have to see what FlyQuest can do against them. But I don't think this series is just a simple write-off in the way that everybody's saying, like, oh, G2 is just going to stomp them. This isn't the same FlyQuest that we saw at MSI, so it's not fair to use that comparison. And maybe they can develop, but then again, maybe the 19-hour flight from Los Angeles to Ridya is also going to, hurt them just a little bit. Either way, if everybody loses, they walk out with 50 grand as a team. So best case scenario, we win and we have bragging rights over Europe for a long period of time already. But I want to use the trophy system that the Esports World Cup is using as an example of why developer-owned esports are not always a great thing. And while it sucks that it's Saudi Arabia that's unfortunately pushing the envelope here, hopefully it will drive some change to LoL esports as well. I'll have the video playing alongside me, but the way the Esports World Cup is that every competitor gets like a token for playing. Like, it is your individual identity. And if you win, your token gets ingrained in the trophy itself. If it doesn't, it gets discarded and added to a bigger monument that encapsulates every single game that is going to be played at the Esports World Cup to kind of cement its history, which is incredible. Now, like, think about this and apply this to LoL esports, because it's something that Riot could easily do, that they're already trying to do with the Hall of Fame, even though that's a bit of a cash grab. But like, what if you had an actual proper totem for the LoL esports year that you slotted in the winners of each international event, but every team has their own individual token as well, and you can fit that into the shields or into the trophies of the domestic splits, you go even a step further, you see how many teams are going to be representatives for the international stage, and like a part of their token can like split off because you like split it into 3 different pieces, and like that goes into your regional trophy, which then feeds into this bigger thing. Like, oh, it's so cool, and it builds such a good narrative of like the golden road, which is like this peak standard of like LoL competition that we've been actually just talking about this past year with JDG. Imagine something like this was available to commemorate the golden road like that. Oh, dude, it would be insane. That would be amazing. But I would have never thought of something like this being there unless somebody pushed the envelope and said, hey, why don't we try and make this unique? And it's something that like somebody like the Esports World Cup or MLG or others would do to try and separate themselves from the developer run things. But it's like, this is great. Whether you're watching the tournament or not, this is something that pushes the envelope of esports and challenges developers and those that are hosting tournaments to do better for the players and provide a good experience for them and for the fans. And it's really cool and unique. Now, I'm curious to see if there's going to be any other improved areas or like things that they make this tournament unique by doing that maybe we could learn from in LoL esports, because they have unlimited money and can kind of just chuck everything at the wall and see what works. But had we not had this event, I would have never known that some of these improvements were possibly a thing. I'm not the most creative person in the world. So there's that. But we'll see. The tournament begins when you're watching this tomorrow, and I'm honestly really excited to see how it goes. It would be a damn shame if we ended up losing both of these series to Europe. I mean, we could write it off as if it doesn't matter, but if we win, then when Europe tries to write it off, well, then it's 2 international tournaments in a row where they've lost to North America. So I see us as in the power position.